It's sounding like Arizona's not going to get a spring this year, which means the roof project is going to be evenings and early morning project. And we have so much to do here at the ice house, including these doorways. There's 3 in this room we need to address. So I'm going to focus on doing that during the day and then the roof when I can, because the rest of this week is going to be probably over 100 degrees. We ended up using one of the door slabs for this room in another room downstairs, which means now we're short one. I need to run out and find one more door slab, run across town, see what they have. So today we're going to go ahead and cut these 2 doors down so they're similar and they fit into the openings. These 2 door slabs are actually different heights because these are kind of contractor screw-up doors, which is why they're only $40 per slab. The overall width is about 32 inches. You know, that's a standard door size that would work, but my opening is a little less. So we've got 4 1/4 inches gap on this side from the edge of the door to the beginning of this. And if we go on the other side of the same door, it's only 4 inches. So someone has already cut 1/4 inch off this door or something. Normally you'd put in a pre-hung door, but you know, they're made for 2x4s, maybe a 2x6. This opening is actually 11 inches deep. It's very abnormal. I want to have a comfortable opening for me to walk through. I don't like things too constricted, so I want to utilize this whole opening if I can. That means I need to actually set the hinges and the door into this old opening. If I used a standard hinge, the screws would be basically in this 1x4, which was not strong enough. So I had to use a deeper hinge. Let's start marking this out. We noticed inside we needed 2 inches off the top and 2 inches off the bottom. You always want to put 3 marks on your piece. And the reason for 3 is you can always get a straight line between 2 points. So if there's only 2 points, you could say that's straight, but obviously that's not correct. That is my cut mark. And then I'm just going to use my shorter guide. This was set up for a different saw, so I'm not going to trust it. I think this one was set for 4 1/2 inches. All right, enough on the math. Let's get this thing cut. So I'm going to start with the hinges now. I've got this kit here by HingeMate that gives you all the bits and bobs to mortise in different style hinges. And we have a square corner hinge, so we're going to do the square corner. This piece just snaps right in there. I'm just going to square these up, make sure that they're square, so it's placed properly on the up and down on the door. It's not quite as critical on this first one because, like, I can put this wherever I want. It matters most when you're doing the second one. We definitely need 3 hinges on this one because it is such a heavy door. I really like this Bosch router. It comes with both a plunge option and an adjustable height option. And now I can use the fine tuning to screw it up or down. And that is really deep in there right now. So we're just going to screw it up until it's about where I want it to be. Get it plugged in, and I'll show you how it works. So I've got the door slab here, kind of put in place. These are the door stud things. The nice thing about it is you can use these big screw things, what's the technical term, to screw this side up, which then levels the door. Of course, I have a marble threshold between these 2 rooms, which is making it a little more challenging. Once it rolls over the marble, it changes height. We're at 3/4 of an inch at the bottom, and that's perfectly fine. For a normal house, you'd want to have that 1/2, 3/4 inch gap at the bottom, and that will allow your heating system and cooling systems to still operate well even when the doors are closed. Now for this hinge, again, because it's so deep, the door is going to be here. I can have the hinge pin inside of the wall because the door will actually open outside. That's abnormal. Normally you always have to have the hinge pin at the face of the wall, otherwise it won't open all the way. So now I'm going to mark the placement of these hinges, putting the hinge in the slot of the door, lining up the front, and then just marking its placement on the jamb. Having it on wheels is so handy. I have the laser level set up here now. You can see the green line here. So I can make sure that the hinge is level and the same at all points along this opening. I decided to switch over to my small trim router. It's just gonna be a lot easier to manage this one. So that worked out pretty well. It's a little gouged in the middle because I couldn't have it perfectly flat. One other piece that's included in that kit I showed you before is this little corner tool. You just hit that and that'll knock out the last corner. So that's how you end up with a nice square corner, even though you're using a round router bit. Since these are more of a industrial style hinge, they do have a top and a bottom to them. You don't want to put them upside down. It looks like those holes moved on me when I went to go drill them in the rest of the way. And that's a problem. So now you get to see me fix a door that has the holes in the wrong spot. And unfortunately, I had these centered in there, but then when I went to go finish drilling them, the drill walked towards me. Whether it's one like this where you just screwed it up, or it's an existing one that's just walked over time, and you take like a bamboo skewer or a matchstick, cover it with glue, and then drive it into the hole. Just by putting that wood in there, it really firms it up. So what we want to do is put this hinge in its pocket where it belongs. That's exactly where I need it to be, so I can drill those hinge holes and hope for the best. Because of the weight of this door, we definitely need that third hinge in there. But for now, I can at least put in the two. When you put in the one at the bottom and the top, it helps make sure that the center one is perfectly aligned. If you do them all, you can end up having the center one pinching. This is what I was a little concerned about. The corner of this door is being pushed out away from the side. It's now actually touching the wall here. I think part of what I'm dealing with here is the bottom hinge doesn't look like it's pushed in its hole though, all the way. Okay. That's looking better. Let's try that now. Oh man, it's still just barely touching here in the middle. It's because this is so old, the wall's not square. This hinge is fully compressed, making it so I cannot actually close the door all the way. I'm gonna have to do a little bit extra work to get this door to fit in. I have to modify the angle of this wall so the hinge can open up properly. This is why it's so much easier just to go with a pre-hung door. If you want to make your life easy, always go with pre-hung. If you like a challenge, buy a 100-year-old building and try to fit doors in it. This is one of the older door openings in the building. This is what we're trying to emulate. It has this rounded plaster finish around the corner, small reveal, and then this little bit more decorative style door stop here. What's gonna happen is we're gonna have this bull nose go all the way up to the top, about there, coat it in plaster, and then we're gonna be left with this tiny reveal here, and hopefully that'll work. Get that up where it needs to be here, where I want it. A little under the overall width, that way they'll go up easily. It's gonna look a little something like that. Just gonna get this mixed first. You know what? Yeah, we're gonna have to go out a ways anyway. Let's just get this built up. Okay. We're getting ready to cut the trim for around the door that I've been working on. And what I'm gonna do first is I'm just gonna cut it to length. Again, because the hinges that I'm using, the front edge of the door is gonna be at the same point as the front edge of the hinge. So my back set of this piece of trim is pretty much flush to this edge of these hinge recesses. Normally a door stop will be, maybe an inch, inch and a half, and it'd be right here. In this situation, because the opening is so wide, it would look, a little off, a little bizarre. So we wanted a fatter profile here. So the next step I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use the router and put the profile on my offcut piece and just triple check that we like that profile before I cut the whole piece. Another reason why historic preservation does take longer. What I'm dealing with here is trying to figure out exactly which router bit matches up with the existing trim best. And I'm still just not quite happy with the way that it looks. Let's try that there, and we'll see what we get. This profile is just way too small. So let's try a different bit. It turns out none of the profiles that I had really worked right. One thing you can do when you're building up trim is actually use different sections of trim to build up an interesting profile. And I'm going to use a similar technique here in creating the profile that I need for the trim. I'm going to build up the profile that I want with two different router bits. Oh wow, I'm a little dusty, aren't I? Let me go take a peek inside and see how this looks. We have now solved what this is going to look like. That just cleans it up, makes it look like the rest of the house. Gap is twice as wide as this gap. So I need to build the top out 1/4 inch. This is all going to get painted, so we don't have to worry about it looking bad. This is one advantage of new construction. You don't end up in these situations where you're having to apply a 1/4 inch thick layer of Bondo to smooth something out. You just have materials ready to go that are easy. Restorations are always much more challenging than new construction. I gotta say, I'm actually pretty happy working with this stuff. I've worked with a lot of different kinds of fiberglass and resins and Bondos and stuff over the years, but this is not horrible to work with. We're gonna try to fit this door in this opening, and it's taken us better part of almost 8 years to get this done. This wall is almost 13 inches thick, side to side. This side is about 12. So I have an inch difference in thickness over this 38-inch opening currently. I don't notice it right now, but once I start to put in the quarter round on this side and I put the trim on the other side of the door, it can really start to exacerbate that look of kind of a pie shape opening. I was hoping to fit a 36-inch door in here, so I made my opening 38 inches, which is the perfect rough opening width for a 36-inch door. They didn't have any more 36s. Well, that means I need to build in this opening 2.5 inches. Also, this depth is about 7 inches on one side, 8 inches on the other. So it's more than a 2x4. If you ask, well, when I did this, why didn't I fix the wall right? Well, we were getting towards the end of the project and we were pretty tired. So we decided to hire some professional drywallers to come in and help us out just to get through the drywall phase. They did a pretty good job, but they were very rough and ready. Definitely not the way I would have finessed it, where everything would have been like standard dimensions. But these guys pretty much just put drywall up, made it look good. It does look good. You don't notice the issues. And, you know, it being a 100-year-old building, having some of those deformities does sort of match the character of the building. That means that everything is a little more challenging as far as the openings. So, anyway, if you want it perfect, do it yourself. Okay. I bought this frame with the door. I wasn't sure I was even going to use this, so I wasn't nice to it. If nothing else, this is a good placeholder. And what I want to do is make sure that I have it centered this direction where I want it to be, to make sure that the door hangs appropriately and correctly. You'll never guess, the frickin' door jamb is not straight. Oh, great. These doors have been sitting in a warm warehouse in Arizona for a while. This is so much fun. I think for simplicity, I'm going to put this outside piece of drywall on, so each side of this is boxed out and we have the right depth to start from. That might make it easier to figure out where I want this door. So I'm going to do that. Okay. Because I was nailing it in the air, it obviously wasn't perfect. So I'm going to do this the way I normally do it instead of trying to do it for video. This will work a lot easier now because I'm not fighting with gravity and everything else. Just get those lined up at the corner. Keep your fingers a couple inches away because this nail can go away where you don't want it. Perfect. Now we've got a door frame. This door is such a pain in the butt to figure out. It's going to fit in here. We're going to set this back and give ourselves a couple inches of space here. I built this side out with 1 1/4 inch material. I built this out with about 1 inch material, which gives us about a 1/4 inch gap over here to adjust and make it perfect. This is my hinge side. You want to make sure that your hinge side is really well supported because that's the part that's going to actually take the weight of the door. We're going to have the drywall bullnose on this side, bringing the drywall down, and it's going to dead end into this piece of wood. Normally you just build up trim. In our case, because this building is 100 years old, the style was a rounded plaster corner. Try it on here. And we are going to put it in the corner. Okay. I need to build up this opening, and I can't do it the way that I did the one into the bathroom because I don't want to do the drywall on both sides. We already have this finished drywall out here. If I take this off, I then have to redo a lot of the texture and mud and floating and everything, which gives us a lot of project creep. As we're getting dangerously close to finishing up this project, we need to set this doorknob. Normally I'd have it about 1/2 inch higher than that, about there, but the escutcheon, the metal ring, would overhang this panel. So I've got this little jig here. It's made by Irwin. Self-centers itself on the door. What that's going to do is put the perfect radius on the outside of the doors. So, as I feared, I ended up routering a little too much right here. What I'm going to do is use the drill bit as a backing. I'm going to cover it in Scotch tape so it will be less likely for that filler to stick to this. I'm just going to rough up the surface a little bit so that it takes the material better. This is pretty hard now. It hasn't taken very long. I'm going to try to separate the Bondo from the bit. Yep, I just rotate it, pull it straight out. Okay, so now that looks good on the back side. We're good there. Okay, so that is very close to perfection right there. The day we thought would never come, painting day. The inspiration for the paint color comes from this wallpaper we found behind the old phone niche. And the color that we're using is called Woodlawn Blue. And we're going to finish this door opening into the bathroom. What we need to do is cut the hole in here for the door strike to actually go into. It's been several days now, but we were talking the other day about the larger strike that I'm going to need to basically get the metal to the edge of this opening. Now I'm going to start assembling the doorknob. This is by Schlag. We got really lucky here. That metal plate barely comes out to the edge of our bullnose here. After over 8 years of delays and waiting to get this door done and figuring out how to make it work, we finally have a door. So we've got these 2 doors done in this room. We have 1 left to do. We are getting really close to finishing up a lot of the big projects inside, getting us 1 step closer to Italy.